Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I came across this post this morning and wanted to talk about it in a related article. There's a multi-trillion-dollar AI bet going on right now, and somebody is going to lose big time. It's either going to be a lot of these big companies, and it's going to be an AI bubble that's going to burst, or it's going to be us, the common rank-and-file workers, and we are going to lose out big time. Either way, it's going to be highly disruptive, so let's take a look. So I'll start with this post from Rohan Paul from last night on November 2nd. Big Tech is committing $420 billion in AI capex next year, and OpenAI has lined up roughly $1.4 trillion in multi-year infrastructure commitments. And Geoffrey Hinton, who is the godfather of AI, if you don't know, says the main path to recouping these sums is replacing human labor rather than only charging for chatbots. And this is probably correct. At these kinds of numbers, at this kind of investment, you can't make it back on $20 a month chatbot subscriptions. You've got to do something a lot bigger to make that money back, and that comes in on massive job replacement. And so I'll get back to this post in just a minute, but first I want to expand on this AI data center bet here, right? Boom or bubble inside the $3 trillion AI data center spending spree. Investment in these vast warehouses is huge, but some worry the debt-fueled exuberance will backfire. And this, by the way, is from The Guardian. I will leave links to all of this stuff in the description so you can check it out at your leisure. As Dan Milmo writes, the global investment spree in artificial intelligence, or AI, is producing some remarkable numbers, and a projected $3 trillion spend on data centers is one of them. These vast warehouses are the central nervous system of AI tools such as OpenAI's ChatGPT and Google's VO3 and of course Grok, etc., underpinning the training and operation of a technology into which investors have poured vast sums of money. And so at $3 trillion, you're talking about the market cap of the largest companies in the world, like Apple or Nvidia or Google. That $3 trillion mark is something that's just, it's even hard to understand how big that number is. It's bigger than the net worth of most countries around the world. It is an absolutely massive number. And that kind of a bet, which it is, it's a bet. It's a bet that you will actually make a profit on that, right? People who invest in things don't do it out of charity, at least most people don't. They want a return on investment, which means you need to make $3 trillion or $4 trillion or $5 trillion over the next 5 or 10 years. That is an exceptionally difficult task. That is not something that is easy to do. So how do you do that? That's where things turn sour for us employees, potentially. And a quick shout out to my channel sponsor, Joa. They make the best accessories for your Tesla and other EVs and have amazing warranties and customer service too. They really are great folks all around. Be sure to check the link in the description and grab a fan-cooled phone charger, a portable tire inflator, a fold-out laptop table, and so much more. Oh, and they make perfect gifts for your EV-loving friends too. So be sure to pick up a Joa accessory for your Tesla or other EV. And a big thanks again to Joa for sponsoring this channel. So let's take a look at this Fortune article. Again, the link is in the description. Godfather of AI, again, Geoff Hinton, says tech giants can't profit from their astronomical investments unless human labor is replaced. Computer scientist and Nobel laureate Geoff Hinton doubled down on his warnings about how artificial intelligence will affect the labor market and the role of companies leading the charge. In an interview with Bloomberg TV's Wall Street Week on Friday, he said the obvious way to make money off AI investments, aside from charging fees to use chatbots, which again is just not going to be that much money, is to replace workers with something cheaper. Hinton, whose work has earned him a Nobel Prize and the moniker Godfather of AI because he's been doing this since the 80s, added that while some economists point out previous disruptive technologies created as well as destroyed jobs, it's not clear to him that AI will do the same thing. Quote, I think the big companies are betting on it causing massive job replacement by AI because that's where the big money is going to be, he warned. And that is very true. Again, you're not going to make it up on volume at $20 a month. Just 4 so-called hyperscalers, Microsoft, Meta, Alphabet, and Amazon, are expected to boost capital expenditures to $420 billion, or nearly $500 billion, next fiscal year from $360 billion this year. And of course, other big companies are doing the same thing. Meanwhile, OpenAI alone has announced a total of $1 trillion in infrastructure deals in recent weeks with AI ecosystem companies like Nvidia, Broadcom, and Oracle. When asked if such investments can pay off without destroying jobs, Hinton replied, I believe that it can't. I believe that to make money, you're going to have to replace human labor. The remarks echo what he said in September when he told the Financial Times that AI will, quote, create massive unemployment and a huge rise in profits, end quote, attributing it to the capitalist system. And that's the interesting part about this. We'll get back to that in just a second. In fact, evidence is mounting that AI is shrinking opportunities, especially at the entry level, and an analysis of job openings since OpenAI launched ChatGPT ChatGPT shows they plummeted roughly 30%. So that's the entry-level funnel. That's the people at the beginning of the job hunt. That's the people who just graduated from college, just came out of high school, those sorts of folks in particular. And this past week, Amazon announced 14,000 layoffs, largely in middle management. So that's not just the bottom, that's the middle of the stack here as well. While CEO Andy Jassy said the decision was due to culture and not AI, a memo he sent in June predicted a smaller corporate workforce as we get efficiency gains from using AI extensively across the company. Despite the potential downside for workers, Hinton also sees benefits from AI. When asked if he would go back in time and stop AI from developing, he paused and said he doesn't know. Quote, "It's not like nuclear weapons, which are only good for bad things," he explained. "It's a difficult decision because it can do tremendous good in healthcare and education. It'll do tremendous good, and in fact, if you think about it, increasing productivity in many, many industries, that should be good. The problem ultimately is not due to AI itself, but on how we organize society," Hinton added. So my guess here is he is saying what we are going to need is universal basic income. That seems to be the organization of society to do this. That is not capitalism, of course. That is much more socialism than it is capitalism. And before I finish with that thought, let's turn back to Rohan Paul's post here. Some of the signals match the claim. He's repeating what Jeff Hinton said here, with Amazon cutting 14,000 corporate roles, while Andy Jassy had already told staff in June that AI would reduce the corporate workforce over the next few years. So I think the evidence chain is fairly clear here. And then Rohan adds extra context here. Entry-level funnels are thinning, with UK postings down 32% since ChatGPT, and US analyses showing 35+% fewer entry-level openings versus early 2023. So this is a problem that is already here. This is not a problem in the future. This is a now problem. We are seeing this entry-level in particular, but also middle management start to be thinned. And at this point, that's not AI completely replacing jobs, but AI allowing individuals to become much more productive in their work. So if you can take two workers, right, let's say they work 40 hours a week each, so that's 80 hours. If you can have the same amount of productivity out of one single worker at 40 hours a week and pay them, and then you pay for a $200 a month subscription or even a $2,000 a month subscription, it really doesn't matter. That is way, way cheaper than hiring two human beings at $75,000 or $100,000 plus healthcare benefits plus all of that other stuff. So the math is very, very straightforward and very brutal, that if you can cut workers and allow the workers you have to become more productive using AI, that is a huge bottom line benefit to a company. And that's exactly what Rohan is saying here. The economic strategy is straightforward. When output per worker jumps faster than demand or new roles, firms substitute automation to protect margins, so profits improve only if headcount or labor hours fall. So we've got a $3 trillion bet on these AI data centers and the efficacy of AI in the long term, in the 5 to 10 to 15 year future. And the stakes for this are investor capital, so that's full on capitalism. They've put up $3 trillion or are putting up $3 trillion versus the labor pool, versus us people, most of us. Most of us are not full on capitalists like owners of businesses. Most of us work for a salary. We collect the salary, we put it in the bank, we spend it on things. That's the way things have always gone. And in capitalism, of course, there is the tension between the capital owners and the folks who make the money, the labor, between the capitalists and the laborers. And the trouble we're seeing right here is that it looks like the balance may be shifting heavily towards the capitalists if this bet pays off. If this bet doesn't pay off, then that money evaporates and labor is in very good shape for quite a while, because capitalists will be stripped of a lot of the money that they have, so they won't have so much money to invest in other things. So labor does well in that sense. But if the capital owners are correct, these companies are going to make a fortune. They're going to become incredibly profitable with fewer and fewer and fewer laborers, which means that labor, the other side of this coin, is going to be in very big trouble. And if we go with pure capitalism with no protections, then laborers are going to be out on the streets starving and probably rioting. And that rioting part is why I believe a lot of people who have the most capital in the world right now are really starting to push for things like universal basic income, which of course is socialist. That is not capitalist at all. In Ayn Rand's world, right, if you don't make money, you don't deserve to live, you should just die or something. But there are way more laborers in the world than there are people who own significant amounts of capital. And so therefore, I think people who understand that are like, hey, we need to take care of these folks, because if they don't have labor, if they don't have economic agency, they are going to revolt and things are going to go very, very badly. So the stakes here couldn't be more clear. The bet on the table right now is $3 trillion trillion of capitalism versus socialism. Which one is going to win? I have a feeling it is going to be capitalism. I think that these bets are going to pay off in the long term, or at least be a wash, which is good enough. And I think that labor is going to suffer drastically. I mean, I think we're already seeing that. 14,000 jobs, UK job postings down 32%, 35+% fewer entry-level openings in the United States. I think we're already seeing labor shrinking. Now, that could be a bad bet, and they might have to add these people back in again, in which case labor does pretty well. But overall, it looks like this bet is starting to pay off for the folks with capital, which is going to be very, very bad for the rest of us. So what do we do about this? I think that pure capitalism simply cannot work anymore if this actually starts to happen, because labor is simply not going to have any agency anymore. And so we're going to have to move into more socialist type of activities like universal basic income. Does that make me happy? Would I rather work for my money? Of course I would rather work for my money. But if I don't have a job, if there's no way to get a job, and a lot of people are starting to face that sort of reality, then you have to do something, because otherwise folks are starving on the street. So that's a pretty stark reality, folks. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this. Do you agree with my analysis of this situation? Do you think that the bet is pure capitalism versus socialism at this point? Is that what it is, or is it something else? Am I overhyping this sort of thing? Let me know in the comments. And of course, while you're down there, if you don't mind liking and subscribing, it really helps out this channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.